Good morning. I'm going to do a biblical economics entry here. I just had a demonic dream, tempting dream from the devil, and I would like to share it. Before I get into that, um, I I want to explain what I know the biblical view of personal finance is with regard to employment. The biblical view of employments. Um, this is not something that's very much understood or talked about in church. Honestly, in most churches, when you're growing up in Pentecostal and charismatic churches, there's really only one economic concept that's repeatedly put before you: tithing. Give to the church, and then God will mysteriously give back to you somehow. And that's it. There's no instruction in business, there's no instruction in work ethic, it's just tithing. So there's a whole lot more in the Bible about money than just tithing, okay? And I think there's a lot of believers out there that are just in financial bondage because of this lack of teaching about business ethics from the Bible. So download my ebook, Biblical Economics, for that teaching. But so I had this demonic dream, and I know it was demonic, and I'll interpret it. I was at a charismatic church, okay, and they had a grid, and they were interviewing people who were members of the church, and they had a grid chart, and they had each of the people went up to a guy to be interviewed, and that guy went and assessed each person's assets, asked us the value of our car, how much annual income we made from our job. And this one guy came to me and he's like, I just don't think it's right for you to be working at home. That's, biblically speaking, you should be working outside the home, and your wife should be working in the home. So you need to really not be working in the home, because you could be making more money if you just worked outside the home. And then I woke up from that. I was like, man, that was demonic. Now, why was it demonic? Well, I'll tell you why. God saved me from it. And I was so celebratory over it a couple of years ago that I think I got prideful over it. And the Lord has punished me financially over my pride. But I have a definite road in front of me of how to recoup my business. But I have a business. I work under an employer right now from home, but I have a business on the side, a telemarketing business. But I believe that the Lord had punished me for being overly prideful, overly proud of myself, for some of my accomplishments in this area, and the Lord's putting me through a period of discipline and patience, so that I can wait for my tax return and relay that into Google Ads to market my business. But before I get into that, I would like to say the Bible does not encourage people to just work jobs. It does not encourage that. The Bible overall, especially the book of Proverbs, encourages people to have their own businesses, their own small family businesses. That was the model for Jesus and the apostles before they went into ministry. Jesus was a builder, he had his own business. The apostles were fishermen, they had their own fisherman business. So while it's true that the apostle Matthew had a job, right? His job as a tax collector, he was unconverted in that. So when we're talking about people who already are okay and fear the Lord, you don't see them just working jobs for other people, usually. And if they are, it's contract work. Like Paul was a tent maker, and he would do contract work as he traveled around. So they weren't like locked in, you know, and there's a freedom there with that. You know, you can be that conscientious, quote unquote, prig that follows biblical ethics. But you see, if you buy into this world concept, this post-industrial revolution concept that, you know, you have to work a job just like everybody else, that's basically saying you're a slave. And yes, while it is true that Paul said, well, either Paul or Peter, I can't remember, work as unto the Lord and not for men. Slaves, submit to your masters, etc., etc. That's as close as you get. That's as close as you get in the Bible to working a job. Is that what you want? You want to be a slave? Right? Now, you don't want to get prideful about it, but what I'm trying to say is that biblical entrepreneurship is that's the Bible, normally the Bible view of employment. It really is. Here, let me prove it to you. The Matthew Henry commentary is really great for comments on Proverbs, by the way, and Proverbs is like the number one book in the Bible on personal finance. Proverbs 10:4 says, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich." Then see, you can't, if you're diligent at something in order to make it rich, make yourself rich, well, what's he doing? He's not just working a job, right? You can be diligent at a job and not make any more money than you did last time, right? Because it's a fixed paycheck. So he's obviously talking about some type of activity here that if you put more work into it, you're going to get more money out of it. Well, that's entrepreneurship. That's not employment at a job, right? The hand of the diligent maketh rich? What? That means if I work harder, I'll make more money? Yeah. Well, most jobs are not like that, all right? Sales jobs, computer programming jobs, everyday jobs where you have a paycheck that's cut for you every 14 days. If you work harder, you're not going to make more money because that's a job, right? So this can't be talking about a job. This is talking about a small business owner, and if he has a diligent hand, if he works more hard than he did last week, he could make more money. How? Well, by going harder after customers than he did last week. Maybe in his marketing efforts, maybe in producing more product. Okay? So this is not about working a job. Right? Nobody's going to ever become rich by working a job because it's a fixed payment amount, right? This is about entrepreneurship. So if you're not familiar with that, I would recommend getting a copy of Entrepreneur Magazine and start thinking about stuff regarding entrepreneurship. And I would also recommend getting Business by the Book by Larry Burkett to apply biblical principles to that. Now I'm going to read Matthew Henry's commentary. Whoa. It's early, see? He said, "We are here told, 1, those who are, though rich, are in a fair way to become poor, those who deal with a slack hand, who are careless and remiss in their business, and never mind which end goes foremost." All right. Never nor ever set their hands vigorously to their work or stick to it. Okay, so here we are talking about people who are entrepreneurs, but they're lazy. They don't budget. They don't do an accounting or bookkeeping. They don't diligently market themselves. Maybe they do it every once in a while, but they don't keep up a routine, and so they're not regularly pulling in customers because they're not going hard after customers. Okay, and then there's those who deal with a deceitful hand, so it may read. Those who think to enrich themselves by fraud and tricking will in the end impoverish themselves, not only by bringing the curse of God on what they have, but by forfeiting their reputation with men. Okay, so you always want to be an honest businessman. Okay, never try to rip people off. None will care to deal with those who deal with sleight of hand and are honest only with good looking too. 2. Who those are who, though poor, are in a fair way to become rich, those who are diligent and honest, who are careful about their affairs, and with their hands find to do it with all their might, in a fair and honorable way, those are likely to increase what they have. All right. This is not talking about a guy who has a job and works at a cubicle for a boss. This is talking about a business owner who's diligent and honest at his entrepreneurship activity, and he does it with all his might. He is likely to increase what he has because his customers will be pleased with him and want to come back for more services from him. The hand of the acute, so some, of those who are sharp, but not sharpers. The hand of the active, so others. The stirring hand gets a penny. This is true in the affairs of our souls as well as in our worldly affairs. Slothfulness and hypocrisy lead to spiritual poverty, but those who are fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, are likely to be rich in faith and rich in good works. Right? This is talking about entrepreneurship, right? And Matthew Henry doesn't need to say that because he's living in the time where the majority of the business world in London was in entrepreneurship, tradesmen. Okay, so, he was a contemporary of Richard Steele, who wrote The Religious Tradesman. So that was the mentality back then. Going to work a job? What? Work for somebody else? You kidding? Right? So while you might have, your business might go down sometimes. Okay, you might have to, as a temporary emergency measure, have to go and work for somebody else. Charles Ingalls did it all the time in Little House on the Prairie, but that doesn't mean that's the norm. The norm is you're working for yourself because there's independence and you have the opportunity to make your diligent hands richer. Okay, but sometimes business goes under. Sometimes there's failure in business. That's what stock markets represent. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll work for somebody else and to tide me over until things pick up again, right? But the Bible way is not just to go and get a job. That's an American idea. Go to college, go and get a job. That's coming from parents. It's coming from family and friends. That's not coming from the Bible. Just go and get a job. That's how you lose your faith, you backslide, you lose your salvation, and you just don't get on fire for God anymore. You tell yourself, I'm going to be like all these worldly people so they'll like me. And then you lose your relationship with the Lord as a result of that. Then you become a porno addict. Because you just think worldly now, right? So entrepreneurship allows you to pull away from that influence, that corrupting influence. And look, 2020 is hindsight. I pulled myself out of that, and I was so confident in myself, so happy in myself. I've been wanting to do this for like 7 years. But I believe the Lord has punished me, and He's still punishing me for being overly prideful over this. But believe me when I tell you, the Bible does not teach go get a job. The Bible teaches go start a business. Go into business for yourself. That is the main Bible teaching. And you're going to have to make up your mind and fight for that if you come to that revelation. And understand, man, sanctification is just not possible by just going to get a job somewhere. It is, however, possible to cultivate if you go into business for yourself. God bless out there. This is John with WesleyGospel.com.